Hello again, SGBers. In this multi-part tutorials extra video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create 3D text models in Blender and convert them into SGB compatible models. There are a number of uses for this which I'll cover in later parts of the series. These tutorials will be viewable from my YouTube and Odyssey accounts, and any accompanying materials and documentation as necessary will be available on the SGB Athenaeum blog. You can also subscribe to me on social media, Twitter and Facebook, and donate via PayPal or buy me a coffee if you want to help support me. Monthly Subscribe Star patrons will also receive updates and early access to my games and other projects, as well as unique or game exclusive assets. Starting in Blender, we're going to create some text for use in SGB. I'm using Blender version 2.93. To check which version you're using, the version number is displayed in the bottom right, or you can click on the Blender icon above, go into About, and it will appear right here, 2.93.1. okay, so press A to select all and then delete to give us a clean work shift. To add the text, we will press Shift A and text, then RX 90 to rotate it on its x-axis, and to make it upright we can then press 1 on the num keypad to change to front orthographic view. Hit tab to start editing, and then we can add something. Let's put Smile the game builder, then tab out again to go back into object mode. And as you can see, there will be an A tab where we can now change the text properties. First things first, under geometry we'll create an extrude. I usually put this at about in between 0.02 and 0.03. Yeah, 2 is going to be good for now. I'm also going to change the alignment to center. You can also change the font. Click the folder and it'll go into the system fonts. I'm going to use an Old English font for this, that one, and it will change. Now a quick note on fonts in general. Blender recognizes free type fonts, i.e. True Type and PostScript Type 1. The default font folder is the Windows system font. In some installed fonts are in C users. Whatever your username is, mine is Fear W, and then it will be an app data local Microsoft Windows fonts, and then these will be the additional installed fonts. So you can check here if your favorite font doesn't show up in the system fonts. You can then press plus to add it in favorites, and then it will save you the trouble of typing all that again or trying to remember where it is. Just remember that the system font is Windows fonts, in case you need to go back to it. Before we apply its texture, we need to convert the text to a mesh once you're satisfied with it. So while in object mode, it would be object, convert to mesh. You'll notice that the font properties will disappear. So only do this step if you're happy with your settings, because there's no going back from here without undoing. We'll also need some additional tweaks. We go into edit mode with tab again. You can see that its topography is a wretched mess with an awful lot of additional unnecessary things to deal with, which may cause problems. So to resolve this, we're going to use a decimate modifier. Well, first of all, you can see that the face count is well above SGB's limitations. So if we have a planar to start, I'm going to use wireframe for this too, so you can see it a little bit better. You can adjust the angle limit and you can see some of the changes there. I wouldn't recommend going above like 10 or so, because it'll start warping the text, at least slightly. So, you know, just play around with it until you get at least some of it cleaned up. Then click on apply. This can only be done in edit mode. If you go into edit mode, sorry, it will be disabled. So this can only be applied in object mode. We click on switch with tab, and then you can apply it. It's not quite optimized because there are a lot of superfluous vertices yet. We can do the cleanup in edit. It would be mesh, mesh, cleanup, and merge by distance. There you'll notice that it's removed 4,000 some vertices. You can click on here and continue. This is a bit tricky because if the value is too high or too low, it'll start warping the text. So you want to sort of experiment with it and see. At the moment I think this is probably about right at the default. So keep it as like that. Now here's a quick note. While you have this open, do not press Ctrl Z to undo any changes, because if the text becomes too messed up, we got like a total mess of the text. If you do anything else, especially the Ctrl Z, then it will automatically apply. So instead, just continue typing some values in here, and yeah. So once that's done, we can now add the texture. So there's materials, stick with the default, maybe rename it text 1 material. And then the base color, image texture. I'm going to open up something here. I don't know where. I haven't organized this at all, so maybe I should start taking some time to organize it fully. Models 1. Yeah, some of those look good, but probably not right. Models 2. Okay, let's use this one. And see what it looks like. It looks like a mess. Let's move this up a little bit. G to move it, Z for moving up. along its z-axis, and that will do. And then in edit mode again, we can press A to select all, Control T to triangulate it, because SGB likes that sort of thing. And then at this point you can also go into File, Cleanup, and Unused Data Blocks. The next step here would be to unwrap it. We can A, select all, and then U to use the unwrap. I usually use the Smart UV project. For most parts that does its job adequately, and I usually set the island margin to 0.010. The island margin is the spacing between the meshes. So when you've done that, it's all good. And select all, scale to whatever. In this case it would be 0.5 for me. And let's try this. See what looks like. Scale it a bit more, and that looks okay. What about if we move it across so it's got the pine effect? Yeah, that's not that bad. Okay, undo that. Put it back to the default stone. Now the next step is to reduce the polygon count further in case it's still too high. SGB allows 10,922 faces, so we'll need to reduce them first, otherwise it'll throw up an error when importing. And for this we're going to use another decimate modifier while in object mode. You can see here that it is well above the 10,000, so this time we're going to use the collapse and then reduce the ratio until it gets 10,922 or below. I think a value of it depends, so we tried 0.6. Is that be good? Anything below 10,000 at this point I think would be more than adequate, so we'll stick with that. Play around with this value until you get below SGB's upper limit. Now bear in mind that this can also warp the text if it becomes too low, because if the face count is too low, then it's going to try to accommodate you and it's going to end up warping the text. So once you're done, while still in object mode, we can apply this. If you don't do this now and you import it without applying this modifier, then SGB won't recognize it and will throw up its too many faces error. And remember, if you don't need to apply the second decimate modifier, then don't. And we're finally set to export. File, Export, FBX. Now in the settings, limit to selected objects if you have multiple objects in your session, and then in object types, empty, armature and mesh should be checked. You can hold down the shift key and select. In the transform, the scale should be 0.01. And then these should be all local, minus Z forward and Y up. Make sure that the apply unit and the apply transform are unchecked. If you're using version 2.9 up, make sure that the use space transform is also checked. This, I believe, was hidden in previous versions and was enabled by default. what this does is apply a global space transformations to rotations. So if this is unchecked when you export it, the object's axis will be all messed up in SGB and the objects just won't be upright no matter what you do. This prevents that. Next, under geometry, normals only, smoothing is normals, and then everything else is left unchecked. Under armature, make sure it's y-axis, x-axis null, and these are the two options that are unchecked. Bake animation, everything except for force start end key should be checked. For static non-animated models, you probably don't need this, you can uncheck it. I'm going to keep it in just because it's standard. Now you can then set this as a preset by clicking plus and then typing in a value. I've already done that, SGB standard, so you can use that next time you want to export a model and it'll automatically apply all your settings. Okay, now we can export it. We're going to go into assets, high text models 1, can't read, and it'll be text models. I should put 2 text models. Then we can name it as TX07 3D text. And then I'm going to save this image as well into the same folder, otherwise once again it won't recognize it. So now to import the model into SGB, everyone should know this by now. It's just going to delete that. Maps, objects, remove that one. So we're going to add, and what was it? Where was it? Text tutorial models. TX073, that's the one. So it'll be added. You can add any elevations that you need here. I'm not going to do that for now. It depends on how you place it, what you want to do with it. So once that's done, you can actually put that text model on screen like that, and there you have your text in game. So to play test it in first person, that's what it would look like. So it's pretty cool. It works. Turned out quite nicely actually. So we can use this text, 3D text, for several different things, such as signs or signposts. The text can be embossed or carved on the signs and other surfaces, and maybe even some text on the floor, or it can be curved around objects like on barrels or something. I'll cover these in future videos in the series. In part 2 of the text models in SGB series, however, we'll focus on arced text, which would look good above doors and gates, you know, like in various farm ranches where they have the curved text, or on graveyards, the entrance, they have like a metal wrought arced text across it. That will be in part 2. In the meantime, that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching. Until next time.